to Books That Change Your Life. My name is Julia Sotas Mattis, and today I am joined by the amazing Access Consciousness author, Donnielle Carter. Welcome, Donnielle.
Hi, thank you for having me again. I love it. I love it.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. And so for those of you who maybe haven't seen episode 1 of this interview series, this is episode 2 of the interview series. And we are actually having an episode 3 that will be released later on this month. So stay tuned for all of them there. We actually were just so inspired and had such an amazing conversation on episode 1 that we realized that this needed to become a series. So more to come as well. And we are talking about Donnielle's book, Right Body for You. And there it is. I love it. And I just love this book. And so in the introduction of the book, Donnielle actually writes about her story and her journey with her body and what that really was. And so if you want to hear more about that, go watch episode 1, because we had an amazing conversation about that. And today we thought we would journey even further into what it means to have a body, how most people hate their bodies and wish they didn't have a body. And also, I didn't say this to you earlier, Donnielle, but I would also love to talk today about how like disparate, destructive points of view that you take on and choose destroy your body. I would love to talk about that as well, because I just think it's a fascinating topic that a lot of us have going on, or
just daily.
Yeah, just
daily,
like
just hourly.
Aches and pains and who knows what else. And so, yeah, so I'd love to chat about that. So thank you so much for coming on.
I'm excited. And, and I love that. I love the title of this series and that you guys do, the books that change your life. Because, for me, so many of the books have changed my life. So many of the Access books that we're talking about, but also like this book changed my life. The creation of it, every day of it, talking about it, reading about it, facilitating it. It's literally a book that changes my life every day. So I'm like, yes, books that change your life, and I'm a big nerd. I've always been a big reader. Like, I love books. My original major in college was publishing, but then I had to do too many English courses, so I didn't want to do that.
That's so interesting. Publishing. That's so cool.
Yeah. I love reading. I love writing, fiction, and some nonfiction, apparently.
Have you ever watched that movie with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, You've Got Mail?
Of course.
I just rewatched it. I hadn't seen it since I was like right when it came out. I was still like a kid or a teenager, and I rewatched it the other day, and I just thought it was cute. It reminded me of publishing and what you just said.
I rewatched it on a plane, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. It's
in the past month. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Anyways, we can sideline. Yes.
I digress. I love that movie, and it's just such a good chick flick.
It is a good chick flick, and it is, and we're talking about books, so it totally makes sense. And I love books. I've always loved books, that the gifts that they are, the information that you can find and have. And when my mom, speaking of bodies, when my mom in the books, talk about her being a nutritionist and inspiration for a lot of stuff. And when we were kids, you go to the store and you're like, Mommy, I want a treat. We always wanted some sugary treat for not being a mean little brat at the store or something, right? Yeah. And she was always, she wouldn't, don't get me wrong, we weren't sugar deprived by any stretch of the imagination, but my mother had a little bit of an agenda there, because she's also like, okay, I'm not going to get you a sugary treat, but I'll get you a little golden book. I don't know if you remember those little golden books. They had the golden bindings, right?
Yeah.
And so if we behaved ourselves, instead of a treat, she would give us a book.
Oh, cool. And I remember golden books. I had lots of golden books.
Me too, because I always tried to be the little angel. And so my love of books and everything, and listening to my body about like what my body would actually want or not, started there, even though I ignored it most of my life. But after that, those lessons from my mom came back. which was
So
pretty
cool.
neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, actually, just while we're on this digression of books, I love I one of the things that I find about, like, I've read every book by Gary and Dane except for, I actually realized I haven't read Talk to the Animals, so I'm going to read that this coming week. But
Good
I've
one.
read every other book, and I I realized that in every single Access Consciousness book, there's tools and information that aren't anywhere else in Access Consciousness. Like, each book is so niche and so specific and gives you such powerful tools in a particular area. And I'll read these books and go, I've been doing Access for like half my life, and I've never read that. I didn't
Mhm.
know that. And
Yeah.
so that's really powerful. So while we are talking about books, I recommend all these different books. If you're interested in the tools of Access Consciousness, if you're just getting started out with Access Consciousness, that's a great way to get a huge education in the tools of things that you're not going to find anywhere else. And the books
Anywhere else.
almost never repeat themselves. Maybe a couple money tools, just a couple through the money books, but
But
barely.
they're
And they're
said you so
explained differently.
uniquely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's a wealth of information in these different books.
And a side note about the books, first, the Talk to the Animals, even if you're not into animals and you have a body, read that book, because we talk a lot about bodies in there, and even some body processes, just saying. And then I would say whatever book you're avoiding, please read it.
I'm always like, oh, animals. I grew up on a farm, and so it's like, oh, animals.
And I avoided the book Beyond the Utopian Ideal
Yeah.
until 2020. I'd only been doing Access for like 12 years. And I bought it like 3 times and I gave it away. And I'm like, I'm going to force myself to read this because, I want everybody to be this bright, shiny, happy. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That
whatever
book.
book you're avoiding, you might want to read it. Just
Yes. And in the beginning of Utopian Ideals, Gary writes a disclaimer. There's not a dedication. There's a warning where the dedication would be. There's a warning. It says, warning. This book cannot be read lightly. This is not going to be an easy read. Like, this is not something you read in the bathroom for like leisure. This is going to be one of the hardest things you're ever going to get through.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
But worth it when you get it. So, all right,
Yes,
there's
it
my
is.
side note.
Yes, it
There's
is.
my
It
side
was not
note.
easy for me to get through either. I stayed on page 39 for 6 years. I couldn't make it past page 39.
I'm impressed. I couldn't make it past the disclaimer for years. And it's based on a class. And we have these like 6 days and 7-day events in Access. And it's the only class like that I've missed in 14 years.
No shit.
Yeah, so I missed that. I didn't read the book. I'm like, wow, I'm not avoiding anything.
That's so funny. Well, that's a great tip for those of you listening. Anything you're avoiding is something you may really need.
Well, and what's interesting about, we're talking about bodies today in the book and stuff, is that can also be said for what you have an awareness for or what you have a talent for or capacity. Because, it's like I spent most of my life avoiding my body, hating it, avoiding anything to do with bodies, which was funny because I was producing my mom's radio show, which is Health Talk Radio for bodies and all this kind of stuff. And I actively avoided it. And then once I started in on this, it wasn't a smooth transition of like, oh my gosh, these tools are amazing, I'm going to go facilitate it. Yeah, no, I avoided it for a long time before I actually acknowledged that I do know something and that I have something to contribute. And for like, the Right Body for You certified facilitators, I always ask people, I'm like, when I invite them to be a when I invite them to be a facilitator of Right Body for You, I'm like, well, what if what you judge about your body makes you a good facilitator of bodies?
So that's great. So Donnielle, let's start there. Could you kind of unpack that a little bit? That's a really powerful tool that some may be quite unfamiliar with. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So it's like, who judges their body? right? Every day. Anybody who does it is says they don't is I'm like, cute. We all have those moments, right? We all have those moments. Some of our moments are like every moment of the day. But with the judgment, one of my favorite quotes from the book of Right Body for You is Gary Douglas saying, judgment is the ultimate poison to the body. And in that, it is literally a source of destruction. And so what's interesting about that is, yeah. So first off, I want to acknowledge everybody, okay? Because you're all here, you're watching with eyeballs or listening with ears or, you know, whatever it is, but you're with your body. You've created your body to whatever degree it is, whether you're happy with it or not happy with it or judging it or somewhere in the middle, right? It's like we've been told in this reality to use judgment as a source of creation. What's wrong? Find what's wrong and fix it. Or find what's missing and fill the void, right? So we've been taught to use judgment as a source of creation when it's actually a source of destruction. So I just want to acknowledge you, what you have created, that you're still here with trying to use judgment as a source of creation.
Yes.
Okay.
When that's a really powerful, just not discernment. What is that? It's a really powerful delineation, explanation. Yeah. I can't think of the word, but it is so true. We create things in this culture, in this world, through judgment. If I can discipline myself, I mean, that was something that I grew up with. We actually just had my grandmother's funeral, and she died 2.5 years ago, and she was 92 years old, and she was so ready to go. So it was not a sad thing. It was actually a total celebration. But we were standing around her gravesite, and my uncle, we didn't have a church. She was not a religious lady. She actually denounced the church when she was about 25 because of the hypocrisy. She couldn't take it anymore. And that was her point of view, and that's how she raised her kids, was basically atheism, was her point of view about that. But one of the things that my grandfather said, no, that my uncle said, standing around her gravesite saying this eulogy, was discipline. That if there was one word I can use to describe my mom, my grandmother, discipline. And she was just so wonderful and took such good care of us, but at the expense of herself to a degree that's almost unbelievable, and excluding herself to a degree, like to a huge degree. And that discipline that she had was a source of judgment, and that was her greatest way of caring for us. And I love her and adore her, and I am so grateful for everything that she did, because my uncle said, for those of you kids who own a home, you own a home because of your grandma. And I thought, well, you know what, actually, that was always a point of view that I had, that, you know, and I'm like, he's actually right. And so there was a lot that she gifted me, and she was a wonderful grandma, but I went, ooh, the judgment and the pain of discipline. And that is the best way to love somebody. And so that was just really interesting. I've been thinking about that too. So even just like that one thing, discipline, major amounts of judgment, and that does actually destroy your body over time.
It does. And that's why I'm saying that and I love this story. I love your grandma. She's adorable. Yeah. That's why it's like I try to get people to acknowledge what they have created with their body, trying to use a source of destruction, right? Because it's like, we've created amazing things, we've created crappy things, you know, and whatever it is, but you've created something with a source of destruction. And so what if you use a source of actual creation, like gratitude? It's an amazing source of creation, right? So you gratitude for your body. What can you create then with your body? I don't know about you, but my body just got lighter just talking about that. It's like, oh yeah, gratitude. Okay. Yay. Right.
Thank you so much for that. That's such an amazing way of looking at it. If you can do this much with judgment and destruction,
what can you create with gratitude?
And what can you create with gratitude and creative elements? Wow, beautiful. Thank you. I hope all of you out there listening are in celebration right now over that wonderful.
Well, see, thank you. And that's one of the things I love about these tools are there's never to make you wrong. And so that's why it's like, if you've been judging your body, don't be mad at yourself. It's just what it was, the tools that you were given, but we're here to give you new tools.
We're here to give
right. And so it's not about judging the past. It's like, what if you could be grateful for the past? What if you could be grateful for the judgments? Because that judgment got you listening here, right? It's like, that's one thing I know a lot is a lot of my classes, well, majority of my classes have to do with bodies. And the judgment of their body usually gets them to class.
Yeah.
But so if you could be grateful for that judgment that got you here, it actually de-solidifies, unsolidifies it from the past as well, so that the choices you're making now and into the future are easier to make because you're grateful for the judgment that you had.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful, Donnielle. You know, one of the things, I mean, one of the basic keys of access consciousness is literally just being an allowance of your limitations, you know, and judgment is a limitation because it literally limits.
Oh, yeah.
And like one of the most freeing things that I ever got to was just going, like, I've always judged myself for being messy and for being mean to my husband. Those are two things that are tough for me. And and the other day, well, I guess a couple months ago, I had a facilitation with Gary, and he was trying to get me to see that as crazy as I was, it's not a judgeable offense and it's not wrong. And I was in my bathroom and there was some messy clothes across the bathroom floor, and I looked at them and I went, normally I would punish myself. And you know, these little things that we do. And I looked at them and I went, is that a punishable offense that I need to judge myself for, that I have clothes on my bathroom floor? Or can I have allowance that that's exactly who I am right now and be total, that's who I am? Is that the worst thing in the world? Is there lots of phenomenal things about me? Absolutely. It's like, and I just let that go. And that actually opened the door to me looking at, okay, this other thing, like, is that punishable? And I started asking myself, Julia, is that a punishable offense? And I'm like, no, like, lay off judgment.
Yeah. You'll find that nothing is actually a punishable offense because everything is just a choice. And what's interesting with that is, you know, taking that, like with the clothes on the floor, and you go in to punish yourself for it, right? That becomes solid then. And that's what I was saying, is it's like you solidify that judgment, whatever it is. I ate badly, or I left clothes on the floor, or whatever it is, that becomes a solid thing that you're constantly having to overcome instead of just making another choice. But so if you can be in the allowance of it, to borrow your words, like if you can be in allowance of it, like, oh, look, I'm choosing to be messy today. Oh, look, I'm choosing to eat bad, right, today, then it doesn't sit as a solid thing in your universe. It becomes just that 10 seconds of choice that you made, you know, because it's like in this thing with judgment, for me, what I've really noticed, like, because eating, I know a lot of people they punish and they get mad and they judge themselves about what they eat with their bodies, right?
Yes.
And I invite you guys to stop and look at the next time you eat. It's like, what if the judgment of eating bad actually does more destruction to your body than the food you're eating?
Mic drop.
Because look at that. It's like, totally. I mean, you know, we have other choices of food, and and I can go into, you know, all of that, and the sugar, salt, water, and eat what your body desires and stuff, but also because we're talking mainly about, you know, judgment and the stuff it does to our bodies. Over the years, I've noticed this with me and other people. It is often our judgment about eating bad that is literally more destructive to your body than if you just ate the food and went, yep, I'm eating a Snickers bar for breakfast.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Just my choice, right? Yeah. And if you have allowance for that, your body doesn't react as much or at all compared to, I'm so bad because I ate Snickers for breakfast. That solid makes it solid in your universe, gives you something that you try to overcome, usually fail at because you're judging it. And yeah, the judgment of the food, it's amazing, the judgment that you're eating this. And I do this amazing, it's a very long class, but I do this amazing thing about food, about making the difference between food and eating. Because are we judging the food or are we judging the act of eating it?
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Because we do this thing where it's like, oh my gosh, I was so bad, I ate this and da 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 da. And so I ask people, like, right now, get the energy of food, not eating, not putting in your mouth, but just the energy of food out there. Plants, animals, minerals, sugar, you know, in the grocery store or wherever it is, just get the energy of food before you eat it. Again, I can feel people like keep going to eating. It's like, no, I'm trying to make a distinction here, right? So it's like, just get that energy of food out in the world. Is it out to get you? Is it, or do they have secret meetings and all this food and plotting of the destruction of our bodies?
The Doritos are like the evil villain. The Doritos
Right?
are the Darth Vader.
Exactly, right? Or is that energy of food nurturing and warm and enlightening and adventure, and like what else is possible with that? And the food's like, yeah, let's go play, right? For me, the energy of food is this nurturing thing out there. But then we eat it.
This is blowing some things, I think, off of me and those
Yeah.
of you out there too. Like,
Yeah, but look how the energy dropped when I talked about actually eating that food.
right.
So what are we actually judging? We're judging the act of us eating it. We're weak-willed. We shouldn't be doing it. We're destroying our bodies. We're going against what we learned about proper nutrition or anything like that. It's like, those are all the things that come up, but we don't look at that. We look at, oh, the bad food. No. And people hardly change. Have you guys ever noticed that when you like focus on just the food, you hardly change things? Well, yeah, because really what's going on is the judgment of, if you were stronger, you wouldn't do that. Or if your body wasn't letting you down, you wouldn't need this blood sugar boost. Or you're not bad, or you're bad for going against nutrition standards or whatever. So it's like, when you're willing to see that distinction between food and eating, you're actually present with the eating and the energies of what's actually going on. And then you can change things instead of spinning your wheels over here assessing about food, whose food was like, I just wanted to party. What's going on?
Totally though. And like one of the things that I grew up learning was that on the outside of the grocery store is where the good food is, and in the inner aisles is where the bad food is. The produce is good, the meat is good, the whatever is on the outside, and then once you get into that preserved food, that's the evil.
Yep, I got into that. I learned that too. Should just go on the outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I learned that too. And I think I said this last time, I have learned more about health and nutrition for somebody who doesn't have a technical nutrition degree. I've read the books, I talked to the people, and honestly, this isn't to say all of that is crap. It isn't. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know a future is possible when we're in such communion with our bodies and the molecules of everything that we can change anything. Food becomes truly just a hedonistic fun experience instead of a requirement, right? And so it's like, I know that day is possible. Are we there yet? No. So in the meantime, but we have seen miracles. And so this isn't about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. For me, it's always about including that in your body, right? It's like I was talking with somebody yesterday who is doing keto. She wanted to do keto. And when she started it, her body was light and fun, and she included her body. Because for me, it's always about including the body, right? That's what I'm getting to. It's about including the body in those daily choices. But then the judgment of like, I have to do this, and this is how it's going to work. Well, I was talking to her. She's like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm just so low, and da, 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 da. And I'm like, does your body want a Coke? She's like, no, it's not keto and it's refined sugar. And and all these judgments started coming up, and she had judged keto right and everything else is wrong. And so one thing about judgment, I can say this very clearly, the second you judge anything, you stop your awareness, plain and simple. If you judge it, you turn off your awareness to it. And so when she was judging this as right and wrong, I'm like, well, okay, if you didn't judge it, pod poc, I did some clearings. And I'm like, okay, so truth, does your body desire a Coke? She's like, yeah. And so she just got one of those little cans of Coke and she drank it. She's like, I feel so much better. And she even, what was interesting is she even did that, like, you can, like, I guess you're supposed to stay in ketosis or whatever. So she did one of those little test things. And even with the Coke, she stayed in her ketosis range because she wasn't judging that she drank the Coke. It was just something her body was asking for. So it's not about throwing all this away. It's about including your body in what it daily desires.
Right. That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit more? I've heard Gary say that it's not the food that creates the excess weight, it's your point of view about the food that creates the excess weight.
Totally. And this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Can you expand on that a little bit from your point of view?
Yeah. Well, this is exactly what we're talking about with it's not the food necessarily, because it's like, with the client I had yesterday, she was judging herself for drinking the Coke, or trying to judge herself, or she wouldn't drink the Coke because she was judging herself, right? And that's why I said that, like, she judged the Coke as wrong before. I guarantee that if she had kept judging the Coke as wrong, her body would have been out of ketosis, or whatever it's supposed to be. But because she didn't have a point of view about the Coke, her body received the Coke and kept in whatever ketosis level, whatever that she was asking her body to be in. Right. And so that for me is a very good example of, it's not about the food, it's about our judgment about it.
Yeah.
Right. But here's another one that I'll, fry a few noodles. She was asking her body to be in this ketosis. What if she could do that without even eating keto? Right. It's like our body will give us whatever we're asking for. And here's the thing, a lot of people have the point of view, and here's a myth. A lot of people have a point of view that if you have anything but a perfect body, you're not listening to your body. If you have some disease, you're not listening to your body. If you have extra weight, you're not listening to your body. If you have thin hair, you're not listening to your body. Your body will give you whatever you ask for. So truly you need to look at, what are you asking for? Because I've seen people with extra weight go, well, I created it to not be seen, or to not have lust, or not create sexual attention, or to limit myself so I don't actually have to go out and create, or I created a disease so my family would take care of me, or because I want it out, or whatever. So it's like, just because your body may not be perfect doesn't mean your body's not listening to you. Doesn't mean you don't actually have a communion with your body.
Wow.
Okay, because I know a lot of people think that.
Yeah, I just love talking to you because the way that you see things, it to me gives me such a broader view of bodies, and you look from somewhere that I don't look from, and I just love adding your perspective to my awareness.
Cool. Yay. Yeah, I love that. And that thank you. That makes me so happy. And then maybe next time we can do the communion.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the communication.
Communion.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and chatting on Books to Change Your Life. And thank you out there listening for being here, being a part of the conversation, and really choosing consciousness with your body. Get the book if you have not read the book. It is absolutely phenomenal. And it is on Audible too. And it's on Audible too. And there are things in that book that you really won't get anywhere else in the world. And you're also going to notice as you read the book that it may even trip out your brain. You may get really what we call in access fried, because the information is actually taking away so many energetic judgments. So it's actually in a way creating the same effect as taking an access consciousness class, where you're destroying
Yeah.
massive amounts of judgment and having more space for you, the being, and you, the body.
Yeah. So if you find yourself yawning and stuff,
Which I was all through the interview.
that's it. It's more often than not, it's your body releasing something. Like the first time my sister I did a telecall and she's like, "How was the telecall?" I'm like, "Oh, it was really good. Everybody was yawning, having a hard time staying awake." And she's like, "Congratulations." I'm like, "No, that's good, because that meant a lot of unconsciousness, anti-consciousness was coming off and people were releasing." She's like, "Okay." So yeah,
No.
just know. And some people cry. And that's not a bad thing either. And it's not a judgment or a guilt. It's your crying is one of your body's ways of releasing. And so what I'm saying is follow up with what Julia said. Some stuff may be going on and it's all good.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody
Thank
listening.
you.
And we will see you next time on Books to Change Your Life. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.